Hi, Jacob. I wanted to leave you some feedback on your rough draft. You have an excellent sense of family and family history here. I am impressed and slightly envious with how much you know about your family history. The details here are great. They're really concrete and clear, and um, it was definitely a fun read. You end with this idea that family is the most important thing, and I think that that is something that is very apparent from the submission, right? That it is clear that it is something that you have value that you value, and that your family has worked to um, develop that in you. So let's talk about in terms of the narrative itself. Like, we talked in class this week that probably what you don't have yet is a clear narrative arc, and that's the biggest thing that I think that I see missing in this piece is we're not quite sure what story you want to tell yet. Um, like I said, a lot of really good factual, concrete detail. Um, so I get a good understanding of your background, but what story now do you want to tell? So, like I said, what is very apparent in this piece is the idea of family. So I wonder if you can hone in on that idea and think about an experience um, where you look back on it now and you see, like, yeah, like that is a real pivotal moment in my life of when of when I really learned this value, right? And you might think about, why is family so important to you, right? So I think, like, a lot of people would say it's something that they really value, but for each person there's going to be individual differences, but there's going to be some overlap there as well, right? So I think, like, you honing in on a specific story that really illustrates that for the audience would be a great way to really get us a narrative with a clear beginning, middle, and end. And then pretending, or excuse me, not pretending, that is not the word I wanted to use there. Depending is what I wanted to say. Depending on what, quote unquote characters, so what people from your family will end up populating the narrative, that's when I think you can bring in these wonderful background details of how they met, what they did, right? So if your grandparents are going to play a role in your narrative, it might be good to bring in some of those details to really capture that. Another thing that I don't quite see yet is a specific place where the narrative is going to be set, the setting, because you mentioned several different towns in Missouri, along with North Dakota. And I think that you can have, it's possible to have more than one place in a narrative, but in order to describe it in rich detail, you probably want to focus on one specific place. And since your essay seems to be related to family, perhaps you can choose a space, whether it be a man-made structure, excuse me, or an outdoor space where you really learned these values that you hold so dear. That would be a wonderful thing, I think, to do in this narrative. So yeah, as a whole, I like your writing. I like what you're doing here. As I said before, you have a really good, like, non-fiction voice, right? So in the future, if writing is something that you enjoy, I want to encourage you to perhaps get into some creative nonfiction, because I think that is something that you might have some natural talent in. But right now, it's figuring out what that narrative arc is, right? And what setting will will the narrative take place? And that's what I want to see you working on this week. All right. I look forward to seeing what you do with this. See you soon.